India cannot ignore the GE problem after Dubai, because the crash exposed a weakness no one wanted to talk about. A jet meant to show strength dropped from the sky during a global showcase, and the engine powering it sits at the center of the storm. The world watched as a Tejas fighter fell to the ground and burst into flames at the Dubai Airshow, turning a moment of pride into shock. If the Tejas is known for a rare crash record, why did its GE engine become the focus of debate the moment fire hit the runway? And why does this matter far beyond one aircraft? To understand that, we need to look at what happened in those 8 to 9 minutes that changed the conversation around India's most important fighter. The Tejas took off over Al Maktoum International Airport for what should have been a clean, controlled display. It had done this before. In fact, it had done it at the same airshow 2 years earlier, pulling sharp turns and pulling crowds toward India's pitch for new buyers. But on the 21st of November, 2025, 8 to 9 minutes after takeoff, the flight path started to look wrong. Eyewitness videos and reports show the Tejas sweeping over the runway, then entering a low roll or negative G-turn just a few hundred feet above the ground. At that height, there is no spare room for mistakes. No time to rebuild energy. No time to correct a sudden loss of control. Viewers saw the jet begin to drop. The nose pitched down. For a moment it looked like the pilot was trying to level the aircraft, but the descent continued. A few seconds later, the Tejas struck the ground inside the airfield and broke apart in a fireball. Thick smoke pushed into the sky in full view of thousands of spectators. Dubai emergency teams reached the wreck within about half a minute. Flying displays were halted, and within minutes, phone screens around the world started filling with clips of the impact. The Indian Air Force confirmed the loss and announced a court of inquiry. And that is when the questions began. Tejas has only had one other known crash since its first flight in 2001, which is a strong record for any single-engine fighter. Yet this accident happened at the worst possible moment, in the middle of an international sales push and in front of cameras that caught every second. And because Tejas is a single-engine jet, the public spotlight locked straight onto that GE power plant the moment the smoke cleared. From the start, the Tejas program has relied on one critical piece that India does not fully control: its engine. The Tejas Mk1 that crashed in Dubai flew with a GE F404 at endpoint 20 turbofan, built by GE Aerospace and license-produced in India. It is the single most important system on the aircraft, and it is the one system India cannot replace on its own today. That is why the crash shifted attention so fast. When a single-engine fighter goes down, the engine becomes the first thing people look at, even before any official report. The public does not wait for findings. Buyers do not wait. Neither do rivals. The first place the spotlight lands is on the part of the aircraft that keeps it in the air. There is also history in the background. In March 2024, a Tejas Mk1 went down near Jaisalmer after taking part in the Bharat Shakti exercise. The pilot survived, and the early inquiry pointed to an engine seizure linked to an oil pump malfunction. That incident was separate and involved different conditions, but memories of it returned the moment the Dubai footage spread. This does not mean the GE engine caused the Dubai crash. No official cause has been released. But perception matters. When a fighter that is supposed to prove India's progress falls during a global showcase, and when the same jet family already suffered an engine-related crash in the past, people connect dots, even when they should not. For India, this is the core problem. As long as Tejas depends on a foreign power plant, India will always be exposed when something goes wrong. It does not matter if the pilot misjudged the terrain, if energy ran out quicker than expected, or if the aircraft hit a rare aerodynamic limit. The engine still becomes the talking point. And this is why the GE link matters more than ever. The engine was supposed to be the quiet part of the story. Dubai made it the loudest. To understand why the Dubai crash struck such a nerve, you have to look at the long path that brought Tejas to this moment. India began the Light Combat Aircraft program in 1984, aiming to replace the aging MiG-21 fleet and build a homegrown fighter that could stand on its own. The first Tejas prototype flew in 2001, but the full rollout took years, with the first squadron entering service only in 2016 and the second in 2020. The slow climb made every success matter more. So when India placed 2 major orders for the newer Tejas Mk1A in 2021 and 2025, adding up to 180 jets, the message was clear. Tejas was no longer a test program. It was a pillar of the country's future air power. A single-engine fighter chosen to help stabilize squadron numbers as old aircraft retired. Dubai was supposed to be part of that rise. Tejas had already appeared at the 2023 Dubai Airshow, pulling sharp negative G-turns and drawing interest from buyers. It was a bright moment for India's export push, especially with rival jets like Pakistan's GE F404 on the same ramp. So when the Tejas returned to Dubai in November 2025, expectations were high again. But just one day before the crash, videos spread online claiming that a Tejas had an oil leak. India's own Press Information Bureau had to step in and explain that what people saw was normal water drainage in humid conditions, not a mechanical fault. The rumor died, but the timing would haunt the story that followed. Then came the 21st of November. The Airshow, the crowd, the cameras. And the moment the Tejas hit the runway, the entire 4-decade timeline shifted. Years of progress were suddenly weighed against those few seconds of footage. Buyers paused. Critics stepped forward. Even though no official cause was known, the event placed the whole program under a new kind of pressure. And in the middle of that pressure sat the same power plant that has followed Tejas from the start, the GE F404. Tejas is a single-engine fighter. That design choice saves weight, cuts cost, and keeps the aircraft light enough for the role it was built for. But it also creates one simple rule that every pilot understands. If the engine has a problem, there is no backup. There is no second power source to help the aircraft climb, steady out, or buy time for a recovery. At an Airshow, this risk tightens even more. Displays are flown low, fast, and tight so that the crowd can see every move. It looks smooth from the ground, but the margins are razor-thin. Aviation analysts who studied the Dubai footage pointed out that Tejas had very little altitude left when it made the final turn and began to drop. In that zone, even a small loss of energy or an unexpected flight input can turn into a problem the pilot cannot fix in time. And when the aircraft only has one engine, the public mind always jumps to the same question. What happened to the power plant? There's no confirmed answer yet. No official report links the crash to any system. Investigators are still working. But the attention locked onto the GE engine because the single-engine layout gives the public nowhere else to look. When a twin-engine jet falls, people wonder which system failed. When a single-engine jet falls, they wonder if the one heart that keeps it flying stopped doing its job. That is the trap India faces. Even if the cause turns out to be pilot workload during the negative G-turn, or misjudged energy line, or a rare handling event at low altitude, the GE engine will still carry the weight of the conversation. Not because it has been blamed, but because it is the only possible point of failure most viewers understand. And that is why this single-engine platform creates a single point of pressure. One system, one supplier, one narrative that India cannot fully control. When the crash hit global headlines, both HAL and GE moved fast to shape the message. HAL told investors that the accident was an isolated occurrence caused by exceptional circumstances and that it would not affect production, finances, or future deliveries. GE also pledged full support to the investigation and did not indicate any known issue with the F404 engine powering the Tejas Mk1. On paper, these statements sound calm, but the timing is where the tension sits. India has spent decades trying to build a fighter it can fully call its own. Yet the part that matters most still belongs to someone else. The Tejas A-frame, systems, composites, and flight control design reflect years of Indian work. But the power plant, the one element that cannot fail, is imported. And that matters because the Tejas is not a small program anymore. With 180 Mk1A jets on order and more upgrades planned, the IAF depends on a steady supply of engines, spares, and technical data. Any pause in that chain affects squadrons, training cycles, and long-term readiness. This is why the Dubai crash struck a deeper nerve than a single accident. Even without any confirmed link to the engine, it highlighted how much India still relies on GE for one of the most critical parts of the aircraft. Long before the investigation ends, planners in New Delhi must face a simple fact. As long as Tejas runs on a foreign engine, India does not fully control its own fighter fleet. And this runs directly against India's main defense goal. For years, leaders have pushed for self-reliance in aerospace, with Tejas meant to be a step toward complete independence. But when the spotlight hit Dubai, it showed that the country's biggest bottleneck is not the jet itself. It is the one part India still cannot build at scale. That is the quiet conflict hidden behind the crash. HAL insists the event does not change its plans. GE promises cooperation. Yet the long-term path India wants cannot be reached through a supply line it does not own. Dubai was meant to push Tejas deeper into the export market. India had been courting buyers from Malaysia to Argentina, and Armenia was already in advanced talks. But the crash changed the tone fast. Within days, Reuters and the Straits Times reported that Armenia had suspended its negotiations until the investigation could explain what went wrong. A fatal Airshow accident is rare, And it happened right in the middle of India's sales pitch. Buyers want a clear record and predictable support. When an aircraft falls in front of cameras and no official cause is known, confidence drops. And with Pakistan's JF-17 parked at the same show, any doubt around Tejas gives the competition an easy win. This is where the engine issue matters. Export customers look at safety, but they also look at supply. A fighter that relies on a foreign power plant raises questions about access to spares, long-term support, and political oversight. Even without a confirmed engine link, the Dubai crash pushed those concerns to the front. India wanted Dubai to lift Tejas exports. Instead, it highlighted another issue. When the Tejas went down in Dubai, the impact did not end on the runway. The pilot, Wing Commander Nimansh Sile, a mid-30s officer from Himachal Pradesh, lost his life in the crash. He leaves behind a young daughter and a family that saw him as a steady, disciplined fighter pilot who served with pride. Tributes poured in from India's defense minister, senior leaders, and the Indian Air Force. His send-off video showed how deeply the loss cut through the service. Scenes from the airshow added another layer. Families and spectators watched the jet fall in real time. Thick smoke rose over the runway as emergency teams rushed to the wreckage. There were no injuries on the ground, but the shock spread across the crowd and then across social media within minutes. Behind every debate about engines, exports, and systems, a pilot paid the highest price. And this is where the story reaches its peak. India wants control of its future fighters. It wants engines built at home, technology owned at home, and decisions made at home. But the Dubai crash showed that Tejas, even after decades of work, still relies on a foreign heart. A single imported power plant sits at the center of a national program meant to prove independence. And when that aircraft fell at an international event, the entire conversation narrowed to the part India did not design. No report has linked the GE engine to the crash. Investigators from the IAF and the UAE are still working. The cause could turn out to be pilot workload in a negative G-turn, or a sharp drop in energy, or a rare handling event during a low-altitude maneuver. But the reason India cannot ignore the GE problem has nothing to do with blame. It has to do with control. Tejas cannot be fully Indian until its most critical system is, too. That is the quiet truth behind the smoke in Dubai. The jet can be built in India. The composites can be shaped in India. The flight control system can be coded in India. But the engine, the one point of failure no pilot can escape, still comes from outside. And until that changes, every accident, every delay, every display gone wrong will pull the spotlight back to the same place. If India wants a fighter fleet it can command without limits, it needs control of the power plant that keeps those aircraft in the air. Dubai did not create that problem. It revealed it. If you want more clear, fact-based breakdowns like this, hit subscribe and tell me what part of the investigation you think will matter most in the final report.